You're muted, Janet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Janet from Oka Services.
Pleasure. There is Mulindi Luvai.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mulindi from True Trade Africa.
Awesome. Paul Gunu.
Morning, everyone. My name is Paul from Microsoft. I am part of the startup engagement team.
Awesome. Penina.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Penina. I'm from DigiCow.
Awesome. Rama.
Morning, everybody. I'm Rama from Tula.
Awesome. Richard.
Yeah, morning, everyone. I'm Richard Kakunga Wambua from May Forest Initiative.
Awesome. We have Wanjiku also.
Morning, everyone. I'm Wanjiku from Precision Agriculture for Development.
Great. So I think we can start. So ideally, the reason why we decided to set up this webinar was just to take you through some quick introductory sessions about what Azure is and how that can benefit you. So we jump just right into it. So let me just start a bit. Okay, so what we're going through is just an overview of what Azure is, the services that Azure offers, some conversation around application modernization and enterprise integration, which this directly affects our engagement around the open data platform, and then how to enable a mobile workforce in general, but we'll look at it and how it applies to working with farmers. So when we talk about Azure, what do we mean by that? Azure is a Microsoft cloud service offering that has a variety of services and solutions that helps you to scale, build, and distribute your applications. So ideally, there are 4 key facets that we look at Azure. The openness and flexibility of that cloud platform that allows you to run your workloads, whether it's open source, it's closed source, for enterprise, for consumers, so it cuts across. Azure allows you to build, deploy, and manage applications across a global network of Azure data centers. It also allows you to build application using any language, tool, or framework. So you can bring your own language onto the platform, and it allows you to integrate with other cloud applications that exist in your environment or your partner's environment. So just looking at how Azure plays out in terms of the infrastructure, there are over 56 regions worldwide that Azure data centers are deployed, Azure data centers and CDNs, and Azure is available in 140 countries. So ideally, Azure has the most global region than any cloud provider, and it offers a very good opportunity to scale across the world. So I'll share this slide deck after the meeting. There is a link at the bottom right that gives you a little bit more detail about the Azure services distribution. And when you talk about cloud, why do we even bring the cloud conversation in play? We're looking at scenarios where it helps accelerate your speed in development and deployment. It allows you to scale really, really quickly to a global audience and provide that level of support that you require in situations where your application needs multitude number of users, support growing the access to your platform really, really easily. And also in terms of economics, for the cloud, you pay for what you use. So this ties directly to how you're delivering your application and how you're thinking about your revenue models. So just diving into the specific Azure services that we have, from a broader overview, we're looking at three main services: compute, data services, and networks. And then on top of the compute, data services, and network services, we have now application services that are specifically customized for specific scenarios, like CDN for delivery, situations around integration with other applications, high performance computing and analytics, caching, identity management, media delivery. Yeah, so ideally from an application services perspective, that is looking at specific services that are customized to help accelerate delivery of applications and services. And then when you dive a little bit deeper, this shows how the Microsoft stack of Azure looks like. So at the very bottom, we have networking. And for networking, we have several options of how you access and connect to Azure services and applications and platforms. So we have virtual networks. So you can create virtual networks on top of Azure, have your own private sort of data center or private cloud within Azure public cloud, and you can do some integration to your on-premises infrastructure. ExpressRoute is part of offering of connections of services that if you want to connect to the Azure data centers directly, then ExpressRoute provides that service. Traffic Manager helps to manage how traffic is routed to your application. So in a scenario where you have multiple deployments within regions, within several regions, this helps you to redistribute your workload based on the availability and closeness to your end user. And the load balancer also does more or less. So the load balancer and the traffic manager work hand in hand. So the load balancer helps you to manage load that hits your servers, depending on the capacity that you've set up for your servers and your services. Azure DNS is a DNS resolution service that's on Azure. So it's a global DNS service that you can deploy for your domains. We have VPN gateway if you want to connect directly to our VPN, and the application gateway that helps to also connect to the VPN and provide some level of protection behind a virtual network. Then you go to another level where we are in a scenario where you want to do hybrid integration. Then we have BizTalk services, service bus, backup, and site recovery. Those are services that offer some level of hybrid integration in terms of infrastructure. And then on top of that, now we have the different services. So from compute to data storage, analytics, Internet of Things, identity and access management. So just as a nutshell, Azure has over 600 plus services that are developed, and there's a continuous improvement and development and addition of these services. And also there is an Azure marketplace that allows partners or Microsoft partners to deliver their services through Azure. So you can think about if you have a data center or you've set up some servers in the cloud, you'd want an antivirus, you'd go to the marketplace and buy an antivirus and deploy it to your infrastructure. So in case you have any questions, feel free to interrupt. But at the level of the developer services, we have a number of services that help independent software vendors, whom we call ISVs, to deliver and manage the development process and deploying and monitoring their applications. So we have Visual Studio Team Services, currently called Azure DevOps. We have Azure Dev Test Labs that helps you to test your applications. We have Visual Studio Application Insights that helps you to monitor your application in real time. Hockey App, which is converted to Azure Dev Center, provides the ability for you to test and distribute mobile apps as you're developing them, and also other developer tools like GitHub that have been tied into this scenario. So let's just dive a little bit deeper on specific key services. So in this scenario, we're looking at compute. So for compute, the key services that you might likely interact with, we're looking at virtual machines, websites, cloud services, and mobile services. So when it comes to virtual machines, it's your normal virtual machines, a Linux machine or a Windows machine that has been deployed in the cloud. It allows you to deploy and manage it within the Azure cloud. For websites, we have a service called Azure App Services that allows you to deploy and manage websites from as simple as personal profile website to a company website to web portals. These are supported by cloud services that allow you to deploy specialized services, specialized web services as cloud services. The mobile services allows you to build and deploy app that targeting mobile users. So from a perspective of the infrastructure in the backend, that helps you to store and collect data on mobile applications. When we move to networking, is what I mentioned earlier, the virtual networks and the traffic manager. So the virtual networks allows you to create your own private network within Azure, and the traffic manager allows you to route information between Azure and other providers, and probably if you have multiple sites and multiple deployments within Azure, this also helps. When you talk about data services, this is ideally how you do data management, your business analytics. From data management, we have SQL databases, we have MySQL, we have PostgreSQL, we have NoSQL, we have blob storage. And when it comes to business analytics, we have SQL Server reporting and analysis services. We have Power BI embedded. So ideally, in terms of data services, we'll find time and just get deeper to show the offerings and opportunities that you can explore there. When you talk about HD Insight, these are specific customized platform as a service for Apache Hadoop that you can run on the Microsoft cloud. We also have offerings around caching that provides distributed caching solution for your applications. We also have backup solutions and recovery manager. So recovery manager works with virtual machines in a scenario where you have, like, let's say on-premise machines and you don't have a backup strategy, then you can use recovery manager to make sure you have business critical services backed up and you're able to recover in case of any failure. When it comes to now the app services that we've been talking about, you're looking at media services that allows you to create and manage and distribute media. So if you're building streaming applications, you want video on demand scenarios, the media services Azure Media Services provide that accessibility. From a messaging services perspective, we have services that allows you to do notifications and deliver messages across your applications. Notification hubs also provide highly scalable push notification infrastructure for mobile devices, so for both iOS and Android. We have BizTalk services that provide business-to-business connection and enterprise application integration scenarios. Active Directory, which is a core service within Azure, it provides identity management, and you can leverage the Azure Active Directory in your applications to provide identity management out of the box and integrate with your application. Active Directory has multi-factor authentication, so if you need to implement multi-factor authentication in your application, this also provides that service. So just trying to look at how we are going to provide some level of support and how do we help you to go through an app modernization journey. When you think about cloud, there are different levels that we would like to implement. So from a scenario of infrastructure as a service, that means you're deploying virtual machines and deploying your applications inside that virtual machines for you to deliver. Then you can go a little bit higher and do platform as a service. So you build platforms on top of Azure and deliver that platform and use that platform to deliver services. Or you can even go at another level and do software as a service. So there are a number of stacks that you can do. But when you're thinking about delivery of your solution and minimizing the costs, usually from my experience, you find that infrastructure as a service is highly flexible. You have a lot of control, but that means you're going to spend a lot of time maintaining updates of the underlying operating system, because the only thing that is abstracted at that level is the infrastructure. So we usually try to encourage people to go through serverless deployment. So just to try and look at situations that might require you to do some level of app monetization, you're looking at modernization, you're looking at scenarios where you need to to create some new business value from existing applications. So you probably need to modernize your application to provide that business value, expand your customer base, and probably add additional features to your platform. Of course, when you modernize, your application provides that opportunity for you to have some level of speed in innovation. And of course, there are challenges in running legacy applications that you might consider modernizing your application, and of course, getting out of the platform business and delivering your services as your solution as a service, and of course, capacity on demand. So when you're looking at app modernization options, we have three key things that we're looking at: serverless compute, using containers, and then microservices. So those three components go hand in hand in terms of delivery of your services. But just to try and look at serverless application component, because from a perspective of delivering your application or your solution as a serverless application, this makes it quite cheap for you to consume cloud services, because for serverless compute, you pay for what you use, and in this scenario, if there is no activity on your platform, then you're not billed. And the key delivery of serverless compute on Azure is functions and logic apps that integrates to data storage, messaging, some level of integration with existing applications, providing some intelligence, and using bots on the platform. So it's quite an interesting approach to delivering applications from legacy and monolithic delivery. Just to try and look at how Microsoft containers look like, we have the options to have Linux containers, Windows Server containers, or Hyper-V containers, and you can run them on-premise, Azure, or another public cloud, and integrate to other applications. And container management solutions are available for Microsoft, and also external ecosystem containers like Kubernetes and Docker. So that's a little bit technical, but it's good to just mention that. From an offering perspective of containers, we have Docker, DCOS, and Kubernetes as container service. Then we have Azure Service Fabric that provides microservices platform with Windows and Linux containers, and then single container apps within the app service scenario. So when you look at the arrow at the bottom, the control here is how do you need the infrastructure control, or do you want developer productivity? And this is very important. These are an important decision to make, because in most scenarios, when you're looking at infrastructure control, you need to have resources that have some level of understanding around networking, solutions deployment, management of your operating system that support your applications and things like that. But when you move to the other side of the right, when you're talking about app services, most of these activities are managed for you through Azure. I'll skip that and just jump into enterprise integration. And just bringing this to the fore is important, because it helps us to just figure out and try and chart a path on thinking about how we're going to integrate to the open data platform. I'll dive a little bit deeper into this. But ideally, the whole scenario is, how do we connect to traditional on-premise line of business applications and cloud-native applications? And when you think about this, we're trying to look at a scenario where Calro has existing systems that they use, and probably you would find within your solution or service that you're providing, you could require to integrate with some of these applications that they have. So how do we go and approach that? In a situation where you're looking at enterprise integration, is a scenario where you're trying to create some simplification or an expansion of your business-to-business conversation. And for me, this is very, very interesting based on the conversations I've had with some of the cohort members. You'd find, like, let's say, precision agriculture, if you allow me to use as an example, they will register farmers, but at the end of the day, they need to get access to farmer location or farm location data, which from the interaction I've had with you guys, I know Oka services or Astral Aerial can provide that level of service. So this is a very good example of a scenario where you want to simplify or expand your offering and probably provide better services to your end users. And just trying to look at it from the reasons that will drive you to think about integration is how you leverage other existing partners or creating partnerships that help you to maintain your market share or even grow your market share, provide support challenges for managing your partner services. So every partner is in charge of managing their own infrastructure, data, and services, and then provide some level of integration that your applications can talk to each other and exchange data to enrich the offering that you have for your customers. Jumping into the mobile workforce conversation, and in this scenario, I'm trying to look at farmers, extension workers, and the guys in the field. So how do we provide some level of engagement and access to your platform to the people who need it the most in the field? You're looking at how do you integrate or deploy your application in cloud and integrate it to mobile devices and provide those services easily. So Azure provides some level of access to that. And just looking at a situation that you're looking at how to deliver this, you need to build a line of business application, but you don't have the time and resources to do so. And how do you explore providing these services to your end user who's a field workforce? I'll jump into another presentation that goes deeper into the conversation around enterprise integration. Just give me a minute. If you have questions, you can shoot. Anyone with questions? Did I lose you guys? Hello?
Colin.
Yes, Lord.
You guys are so silent, like I'm alone. Okay, so I'm sharing another presentation. Just give me a minute. Demo gods, my machine is misbehaving. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did. Good, great. So this presentation, I had actually prepared it for the workshop, but we didn't get time to just go through it. But that's fine. We can just go from a higher level through it. So I wanted to introduce a scenario around the data science hierarchy of needs and how this affects how we're delivering our solutions and looking at it. So when you're talking about data science hierarchy of needs, the nirvana is to get to a point where we have AI and deep learning on our platforms and applications and delivering reporting and dashboarding solutions that helps us to make better decisions. But before we get there, we need to make sure that our pyramid, our triangle, has a solid foundation. So the first question you ask is, how are we collecting data in terms of, and the options that you have there is how you do instrumentation, logging, you're implementing sensors, how you bring in external data that enrich your generated content. And this is where you're looking at your platform now. How is your platform built? How is it collecting data? How is it sanitizing and making sure that accurate and up to date. Then you move to another step of how you move and store your data. So here you're thinking about how reliable is your data flow from the source to storage. What infrastructure are you using? Do you have data collection pipelines and data movement pipelines that are built? Your export, transform, load scenarios. Do you have structured or unstructured data storage? So in this scenario, if it's SQL-based databases or no SQL database. Yeah, is somebody asking a question? Okay, I'll go on. Anthony, yes? Sorry? Hello? Okay, so after you've figured out how you're collecting, how you're moving, and you're storing your data, then now we start looking at your exploration and transformation strategy around how you're preparing to do reports for your based off the data that you're collecting. So activities around cleaning your data, doing anomaly detection, and preparing your data for reporting and further consumption. Then after you've done your exploration and transformation, you do aggregation and labeling so that it's easier for you to figure out what are your key metrics that you're looking at how you segment your data based on the different sections and where you're getting it from. How do we look at aggregates? So in this scenario, when talking about aggregates, you're looking at, like, let's say you have farmers in specific value chain. You can aggregate data from the different farmers to create visualizations of metrics around specific value chains. So that's a scenario of aggregating data. And then if you need to do some level of training for that data for you to do machine learning and artificial intelligence, then after you've done that, then you're going from a perspective of where you want to learn and optimize how that data is collected and gives you some level of information. This is where you bring in scenarios of A/B testing. This is highly used on websites from a scenario of marketing. You want to provide, you want to see how different visualizations of your websites and information presentation affects usability and accessibility to your information. A/B testing is part of experimentation and how you can use some simple machine learning algorithms to deliver optimized services. And then at that particular level, once that is done, that's when you start looking at artificial intelligence and deep learning at a higher level. So trying to automate some of the activities around decision making, notifications and alerts based on thresholds and KPIs that you've already defined at the labeling stage. So this is how you're supposed to look at it from that perspective when you're thinking about delivering artificial intelligence and machine learning from your applications. So just going deeper into how we are going to solve this conversation around application integration. And I wanted to introduce a service that I've been thinking about for quite a while now. Ideally, it's an application programming interface service that's on Azure that helps provide visibility in terms of how you're going to integrate with other platforms and other partners, other users, and also how this ties back to the open data conversation. So ideally, that solution is called Azure API Management, and the offering here is divided into three. So we have a developer portal, an API proxy, and an admin portal. So from your perspective, we're looking at the admin portal in terms of whatever your platform, the services that your platform is providing, how do we make sure that if you want to actually monetize your data, how can you do that via APIs? Take, for example, you would want to integrate with, the best example would be, like, let's say, Google Maps APIs. So when you talk about Google Maps API, they provide you a certain level of access. So I think it's 30,000 API calls per month. If you want to go beyond that, there's a conversation about how you're supposed to pay for every request. So a scenario like that, when you think about it, is not that easy to achieve. but Azure API management provides that level of abstraction in terms of allowing you to publish your APIs, subscription management in terms of who is subscribing to your APIs and at what level and what are they going to access. So you bring in the conversation of security. So you secure your APIs, probably there is some data that you don't want anyone to have access to, or you want to provide that data based off monetary value that you request or ask from the person who's subscribing to your APIs. In terms of mediation, this is how you deliver in terms of delivering the different API endpoints and how you can mediate and route traffic into different API endpoints. Of course, content publishing in terms of readability and ability for somebody to self-onboard in terms of consuming your API. So if you've interacted with Swagger before, Azure API management supports Swagger in terms of API documentation. Of course, allows you to manage issues and provide some analytics and reports around how people are interacting with your API. When you come to the API proxy, you're looking at how you're going to handle your scaling, caching, monitoring, and traffic management. Remember, it could be a situation where you say, like, let's say I give an example for Orca services, they want to provide location data to precision agriculture. We can decide you're going to provide access to location data through API management, and you need to figure out how you're managing traffic that hits your APIs, so that at the end of the day, this informs the popularity of that particular service and how you can scale it up and provide access to it. When you go to the developer portal, this is where you allow now your API subscribers to register themselves, provide documentation around your API for self-onboarding, provides also an interactive API console if somebody wants to try out how to make calls to your API, and also it provides other auxiliary services like forums, news, issues, and wikis that help support your API deployment. Just trying to look at a particular problem that almost everyone that I've had a conversation with within that cohort and other startups that we've had engagement with, especially in the agriculture space, is this conversation around farmer registration. And when you think about how this can be implemented, given that Calro is trying to look at how to provide this service as a one-stop shop, the suggestion that I was pushing on your side was to look at it from a perspective of how can we enable Calro to become the data repository owner and providing access to farmer registration data, and then extend this to the different members of the cohorts in terms of you are doing individual farmer registration activities. So probably the first step you could do is to check if the farmer that you're interacting with already exists in the repository that Calro has. If they don't exist, then you can go ahead and register them, and you'll tie them into the platform. So what this does, it allows a concerted effort around farmer registration across everyone involved, and the more farmers you register, the more farmers everybody else has access to, including yourself. So how do we democratize that scenario? And one of the opportunities that we're trying to look at is a service called Azure Collaborative Workbench, which is a multi-party orchestrator that enables governance capabilities around provision of, like, let's say, farmer data, which is something that we all know that is quite sensitive, and you need to do some level of protection, and still provide access to whoever needs that farmer registration data to conduct their services and offer services to the farmers that they're interacting with. So this is still at a very early stage, even internally in terms of implementing it. We're having conversations with Calro on how to utilize these services just to enable access to farmer registration data. This really helps us to figure out how to deliver these kind of services. So I wanted just to run through these scenarios and just show the opportunity that we have here. And even going forward, we're now going to plan a physical workshop where we all we all gather in one room and just go through these challenges that you guys are having and try and figure out how we can provide some level of support and data sharing around accelerating your development process and how you guys interact with each other and provide one-stop shop kind of technology provision so that it helps you to accelerate your development process. So if you notice, I haven't touched conversations around the offering that Microsoft has around artificial intelligence and machine learning. I will do that in subsequent webinars and in the workshop that we are planning to have. So if you have any questions so far, please feel free to shoot them my way. It doesn't necessarily have to be just around collaborative workbench, APIM, and Azure in general, but ideally, if you feel there's something that we can assist you with, just shoot. Do you want to mean I was that good in explaining myself?
I can speak for myself. Everything was quite clear.
Great, great.
I have a question, Colin.
Yes, yes.
For Calro, there's been mention about them hosting the data.
Yes.
Are they hosting the data on premise? Are you giving them a cloud facility? Given that it's a state-run organization, there will always be challenges around how the data is being accessed or being shared, and that is if it's on premise. So could you give some clarity on this? What is the proposed outlook for Calro hosting that data? And
Okay.
then secondly,
yes.
Just secondly, also on the issue of the data, would it make more sense for the different platform owners providing integration APIs so that we share the data that we need to share? Because as you remember during the last meeting, there are concerns about the type of data and who's having what data. Wouldn't it make more sense to just have a platform that allows for API integration so that whoever wants particular data, then we can have a collaborative effort where you just use the APIs? Because I think ultimately everybody is trying to look to monetize their data in one or the other, including Calro itself.
Yeah, so let me start with the first question around where the data will be hosted. I am aware Calro has set up a high performance compute data center of sorts. I haven't seen it, so I can't really tell if it's a data center or if it's a server room within Calro. But ideally, that is an ongoing conversation around where the data will be stored. And just to reiterate your second question around access to this information through APIs. And that's the reason why I specifically focused on the Azure API management offering. This directly ties to us providing you guys access to Azure because from a data integration strategy perspective, APIM will help provide the level of access and control that you require based off of the data that you're creating. So think about it this way. All the cohort members have their own platforms that collect their own data, but there is, I don't know if it's a requirement or is an offering that you provide some level of access to Calro or the government through the Ministry of Agriculture to some of the data that you're collecting that will contribute to the National Agriculture platform, which is also tied to the open data conversation. So my thought around this, and it's something that I'm having conversations with Calro, the ministry, and the rest of the stakeholders, is around how do we enable this level of integration in terms of do we provide the level of support that the cohort members require to, first of all, integrate with other service providers within the cohort or outside, and also provide access to Calro and other stakeholders around the National Agriculture Platform access to their data. So think about it this way. Distribute your APIs, or in this scenario, your data into two facets. There's data that you can provide for free, and there's data that you want to monetize. So when you think about it from an API management perspective, the subscription management conversation and just providing access to your data through APIs, you can register API endpoints that have throttle limits, how many calls you can make to that API endpoint, and API management allows you to create subscription keys that you distribute to the people that you require to have access to your data. So through that conversation, you can figure out how to monetize your APIs. So this provides a very good solution in terms of the integration and API access conversation that you're talking about, so that we don't necessarily say that all the data you're going to collect will be accessible by anyone and everyone. Let's leave that as an internal decision based on your business model, on how you want to monetize your data. And then you can make a decision to say, okay, these are the kind of endpoints that we need to provide to the open data platform, but these other kind of endpoints, we need to provide it to whoever needs it, and we're going to monetize it. So that is a deeper conversation that we'll definitely have, hopefully next week, just to show you how to approach that. I hope I've been clear in answering that question.
For now, that's okay.
Great. So any other question? Anyone with another question? Okay, if there is no other question, where it's 10:57, I think we can wrap up the webinar. Still recording, so once the recording is uploaded, you'll get access to it and you can share with the rest of the team. But expect us to set up a workshop in the next 2 weeks to just dive deeper into this conversation. So I'll also take this opportunity to remind you, if you haven't filled the survey, please go ahead and do so that we can cover a lot of ground going forward when we are engaging. Paul, you have something to say?
I'm sure. I think more information from the online form will be much appreciated from every member, because from there on now we can gauge where everybody is and the kind of work they do, and then from there we can move forward with the workshop.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for bringing that up, Paul. The reason why we are really insisting on the survey is because within Microsoft, the team that is supporting you is very small. So having individual one-on-one sessions is a little bit taxing and takes a lot of time. And as you know, there's a lot of pressure from the World Bank and government to just help you out, figure out this whole open data conversation and sharing of this data. So yeah, I think if there are no more questions, I think
one more question.
Sure.
How can Microsoft support the cohort members in terms of infrastructure for their own solutions that they're deploying for the cohort, for the platform?
All right, so we are in the process of working out a way for you guys to get access to Azure. So ideally, most of the cohort members missed the first opportunity to apply for the Azure AI for Earth grant. The next application is opened in April, which is a little bit late. So we're working internally to get you guys access to Azure for at least minimum 1 year. So that is an ongoing conversation. I'll provide feedback on that during the workshop. I guess by that time we should have figured it out. So yes, there is some level of support that is coming around access to Azure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll end the session there. If you feel that you need any clarification from my side, please feel free to write me a mail. We can set up a meeting to just go through that. But ideally, have a great weekend. Looking forward to engaging further.
Yeah, thanks, Collins. The rest of the team, have a good weekend. See you later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.